If it's not something that makes your heart sing, it's not something that you had your heart set on, or you couldn't even compromise for it and make it work, then you're just better off just rejecting it. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be continuing on with some Hermes questions and my answers. So this video I'm actually filming before I have even uploaded the first questions and answers video. So these are just questions I've been asked on my Instagram and on my YouTube, and I thought I would put them all together and just do another video. But I know that I'm probably going to end up with even more from the other video or two videos that I upload, because I think I may have split that into two parts. But yeah, before I confuse you guys with my intro, I'm just being distracted by my son, of course. If you are new to my channel and you do love Hermes and you love luxury and you love fashion, then I would love if you would hit that subscribe button below and also the bell so you can be notified when I upload new videos, which is twice a week on a Wednesday and on a weekend. The first one is actually more of a statement, and this was actually something that was on one of my YouTube videos, and I believe that it was when I was revealing, it might have been when I was revealing my Kelly 25, like it might have been an old video, or it may have been when I was, actually, you know what, it was when I was revealing my Constance 24 and Rose Atelier, and someone put this comment there, and I just thought, you know what, even though it wasn't a question, I'm just gonna put my kind of answer on it. Okay, so the comment was, paying 10K for a handbag, want the whole store experience, not a counter Chinese seller with X background. And you know what? I think that this comment is still fair. I actually get the point behind it. I get what they are saying, and I don't disagree with them, because when you are paying that much money, you do want the store experience. Just like when you go into Chanel and you're paying $10,000 for a Chanel handbag, you want the whole experience. With Chanel, you may not always get that. We know that. Sometimes it can be, yeah, you may not have that kind of experience. With Hermes, usually when you are spending that kind of money, yeah, you get a really wonderful, fantastic experience. They do generally make it very special. I don't think I've really heard of all too many experiences where it hasn't been special for the person. However, you know what? It isn't easy to get a bag at Hermes. Isn't that obvious? So even though, yeah, you're spending that much money, you would want the store experience, but it is not easy to get a bag at Hermes. You would need to spend that $10,000 on other items in order to get that $10,000, and I assume she's talking USD anyway, because definitely the bags are not $10,000 in Australia. They are much more than that. So I'm assuming she's talking USD. But yeah, you would need to spend 10,000 USD to get the bag and then pay 10,000 USD for the bag. So you've just spent 20,000 USD to get the bag. So hopefully you would have been buying items that you wanted, but given what she is saying, she's not talking about that. She's just talking about the handbag. So in the reality of it, you have to pay double to get that store experience. And you may not even get the bag that you want, or you may not even get a bag. It's not guaranteed. Hermes has always been a mystery, and that's what my channel is about, is that trying to shed light on that mystery, make it a little less mysterious, but give you the cold hard facts about it. And not all cases are the same, but it's just that, you know, what I kind of share with you will shed light on situations that typically happen, and then situations that you may get lucky and you never know. You might be able to walk into a store, ask for the bag and get it, and only spend that $10,000 on the bag and have to buy nothing else. You never know. Typically in France, we know that that can happen, but generally speaking, around the world, excluding FSH, it doesn't happen that way. Another comment that I actually had, and I wanted to shed some light on and explain a bit too, is that someone said, the Hermes game pains me. It's sad that they have to create this artificial scarcity and people play into it. I get why they do it, but I think it's sad nonetheless. And again, this is another comment where I actually get kind of where they're kind of coming from. I do understand. However, there is obviously an explanation to it, and most of us do tend to know it, but I just want to explain it anyway for anyone that wants to understand why Hermes does this system where they make the bags exclusive and you have to buy items to get the bags and you can't just walk in and ask for one. Like, for people that really want to understand it, this is my answer. The thing with Hermes is that if they only sold just the Birkins and their Kellys just off the street to anyone who asked, and didn't want you to display loyalty in buying other items, they wouldn't actually generate enough revenue to be sustainable and to sustain as a fashion house. And the reason I say that is because it actually takes a day to 2 days to make the Birkin or the Kelly. The Kelly, I believe, is 1 day, and the Birkin is actually 2 days. So they can't produce enough bags to be able to meet the demand, even though they've created this demand. But that's the thing, is that if it were to change, this is what would happen. You'd have a flood of people asking for bags, and they wouldn't be able to fulfill the demand because of how long it even takes to make the bags. So then what? They would be selling empty boxes to people. They wouldn't be able to sell the bags. So if they're not able to sell the bags, then they're not able to make money. So this is what I'm trying to, I know that it kind of, like, there's always a flip side to it. Like, if they did it this way, did it that way. But the reality is this is the way that they do it, and this is kind of how they have to continue on with it. Also as well, something you may not know is that the artisan needs to train for about 5 years before he or she is able to start working on the Birkin or the Kelly bag. So they need to train on making other leather goods. They generally start small and continue to progress up and up and up. And then they might be, in 3 years' time, they might be working on making a Lindy bag. 4 years' time, they might be working on a Constance. And then come their 5th year, they could potentially be working on the Birkin or a Kelly. On average, it's about 5 years before they start making the bags. And because of that, they can't just go and hire a buttload of artisans off the street to start making their Birkins and Kellys, because otherwise the quality will be sacrificed and you won't get the luxurious handbag that you get now, and why it's so crazy expensive. Like, it goes hand in hand. So there is an expectation with Hermes that they have to always retain that quality, and I agree with that. I want them to always retain that quality, and that's why they take so long to get their artisans to that level, because of the demand that has been created by essentially their marketing model, their strategy. There is now a high demand for it, that they can't just go and flip the tables and have it that you could just go and walk up and buy one, because they just won't be able to meet that demand. It just is not going to happen. And how is the house going to be able to continue to get revenue coming in if people aren't at least showing loyalty and buying their other items? That's the system, that's the way it is. But I hope that kind of explains it a little bit more as to why it pretty much will always have to stay the way that it is when it comes to Hermes. And we don't want them to sacrifice on the quality that they have. We don't want them to start doing an assembly line process like Chanel and Louis Vuitton have, where they have people that do just a bit of the part from the bag and like an assembly line. We don't want that. We want them to be handmade by the one artisan from the beginning to the end, because then you know that they've put all their love and passion into it, and they've paid attention to every single meticulous detail that has gone into the bag, because they're the ones that have their artisan stamp on it. It's like they've got their name on that bag, and it traces back to them. Okay, the next one is, do you think that having your bag retouched or sparred lowers the value? If you buy a bag on the pre-loved market, do you prefer to have it untouched so you can make the decision whether it should be sent to the spa or not? Alright, now the first part of this is, do I think having the bag retouched lowers the value? I don't think that it does, unless it's a shonky job. If the bag has been touched up by a leather spa and they have done a job where it's quite blatantly obvious that it's been touched up, because really it should be seamless. Obviously we will know that something has been touched up, like to the very close up detail. You might see that the corners, you know, are a bit more smoother, so they probably had some corner wear, and you can see that it's been touched up over. But generally the transition of color should be very seamless, so you shouldn't be able to see that. You shouldn't be able to see any transition of the color. Also as well, dodgy jobs that I have seen is that when you wipe it with a paper towel, color comes off. So again, that would definitely lower the value. If it's a shonky job, someone will not want it, because if Hermes can actually detect that it's not a seamless job, and they can see that it's being done by a third party, they potentially may refuse to spar your bag. May. There have been instances where they have refused, and there have been a lot more instances actually where they haven't refused it, and they've accepted it to be sparred by Hermes. Now, also as well, when it comes to the Hermes spar, because the bags don't have any kind of like serial code, they're not microchipped like a dog is microchipped, they can't actually tell that it hasn't been done by Hermes because, like I said, the bags are microchipped. But if it is a shonky job, then they will be able to see it's not been done by them. So that's why it's very important that if you do use a third-party spa service, that you make sure that they like check their reviews, do a lot of research, and make sure that the work that they do is extremely seamless and is pretty much the same as what you would get if you went to the Hermes spa when it comes to touch-ups. But obviously if you're touching hardware, that's a different thing, because these third-party spas do not have the rights to Hermes hardware. They don't own it. They can only pretty much color touch up. That's what I would say, in my opinion. Color touch up, clean, condition, that sort of stuff. You know, the leather component of the sparring. The next part is that if you buy a bag in the pre-loved market, do you prefer to have it untouched? Oh, you know what? I've never actually really thought about that. I wouldn't say that I prefer to have it untouched, because you know what? If the bag's looking kind of like not good, I kind of prefer it to have been sparred, but I would have preferred if it was done by Hermes. It is a bit of a tricky one because at picture value, generally speaking, you should be able to see if it's a shonky job with touch-up at picture value. You should be able to see it. But the best way to always tell is by rubbing it with a paper towel if color comes off, and you can't do that via picture. I do not worry too much though. To be completely frank, I don't worry too much. Between two bags, if there's a pre-loved bag that has been, that is really worn and used and has a lot of corner wear, versus the same bag that looks really good, is the same aged, like same age, you would assume that it's probably been sparred. I would actually still prefer the bag that has been sparred. Personally, I would still prefer it because I don't like the hassle of having to send my bag to the Hermes spa. However, the only risk involved is that if they've used a shonky spa, then it could put me at risk of sending the bag to the Hermes spa later on. But I can usually tell with my eyes whether or not it's been done by Hermes, or if it's been done by a third party that is pretty much of the same qualification as their artisans when it comes to touch-ups. I know leather surgeons in the US is pretty much of the creme de la creme when it comes to bag spas. Unfortunately, in Australia, we don't have that perfect kind of creme de la creme, but we do have some bag spas that are really, really good. And I know people that have sent their bags to places like Bags and More, Doria Bag Spa, and then they've also sent their bags after being sparred by them, and then say a few years later they want to get it sparred by Hermes because of hardware or something like that, but they've been sparred by those third parties first. They've had no issues with the Hermes spa. Okay, that's kind of like explaining it a bit. Like, I don't worry too much because of that kind of reasoning behind it. You know, either or, I still prefer the bag that has been sparred, to be truth be told, because I just don't want the hassle of having to send the bag to the Hermes spa. It takes at least 6 months. And I don't want to be without my bag for 6 months. It makes me a bit paranoid. The next question is, should I be concerned about taking a pre-loved Hermes bag with me to the store? You know what? No, you shouldn't be concerned, because when I first went to Hermes, the very first time I ever went, I actually took with me a Birkin 30 black with palladium hardware. It was my first Birkin that I ever owned. I never got that from the store. I bought that from a consignment store in Japan. And yeah, you know what? I took it with me to the store. I had no problems with it. And my sales associate actually asked me, she's like, oh, where did you get that from? It's beautiful. Like, it's such a classic black with palladium hardware. And I said, I got it from a consignment store, Preloved, in Japan. And the sales associate was like, oh yeah, that's cool. Japan is known to be pretty much one of the best places that you could buy pre-loved designer bags anyway. So I think that that was helpful anyway, that I actually got it from Japan. But really, you know what, I wouldn't worry. I wouldn't worry, because they're not gonna, I don't feel as though they will frown upon it. I personally don't really give a crap if they did, because if they did, then they're just not worth my business and I just won't shop with them. So I would say don't worry about it, you know, and as long as you know your bag is authentic and you've gone and done the authenticity checks, you will feel confident walking in with it anyway, because you know that it's an authentic Hermes bag, and you know that really, when it comes down to it, it was bought from an Hermes store anyway. It wasn't bought at the back of a truck from the get-go. It was bought from the Hermes store, so it has come from an Hermes store. So it's still an Hermes bag. It doesn't change that fact. So I would say don't worry. Yeah, go to the store with your pre-loved Hermes bag. it's all good. The next one is my opinion on Tadilact leather. So I did own a Tadilact handbag before. You guys will know that I own the Constance 18, which was in blue electric, and I did end up selling it outright to the Purse Affair. So I have owned Tadilact leather. I do know how it feels, how it looks. I did use the bag as well, so I know how it is when it comes to using it. My opinions is this: it does scratch easily, no doubt about it. However, I find that when it does scratch, because it's got a really nice glossy shine to it, it's a very vibrant sort of shine. It's not the kind of shine that you would sort of see like on, say for example, like box calf. It's beyond that. It's even more shiny. So because of that, I find that scratches aren't so easily visible unless you're really looking at the bag. And it also depends on the lighting as well. Like if you are taking photos of the bag when it has scratches, if you get it in the wrong kind of angle, it does show, sadly. But generally with use, when you're taking it out and about, people wouldn't really see it because it's got a really nice shine. I find that it's very hard wearing leather though, like, because it's quite thick and firm. It isn't heavy either. I don't find it to be a heavy leather. So I like the fact that it's firm and it's structured. So when it's in bags like the Kelly Celia, I think it's absolutely beautiful because it holds a beautiful shape. And I'm not the biggest fan of Epsom. I would actually rather Tadilact, because with Epsom, when you scratch it and color lifts, it then doesn't look good. But whereas when you scratch Tadilact, because you're only kind of scratching the surface, you're not pulling off any color. It's really just more of like a I don't know, how do you kind of put it? Like, it just doesn't look so bad because it just looks like a leather scratch. And the shine to the bag does help to disguise it. But really the other thing is that if you use the right kind of leather conditioner, very lightweight conditioner, which I do have another video on my channel which talks about how I care for my Hermes bags. I find that using a lightweight leather conditioner, you know, every sort of few months sort of thing to clean the bag, bring back life to it, I find that that actually helps to blend the scratch as well. Like any scratches that you have, I find that that really does help. So personally to me, I like Tadilact leather. I wouldn't decline a bag because it's in Tadilact leather. I also think as well, bags are meant to be used and loved. So I think that scratches on bags add character. It tells a story, shares a story, whatever you want to say. So personally to me, I do recommend the leather, but if you really hate scratches and you can't stand seeing a scratch at all, then it's definitely not the kind of leather for you. Like, it really, that's personal preference. It's going to depend on how you are with your bags. You know, when you see a mark, when you see a scratch on your own bags that you already have, do you freak out? And would you freak out even more if it was a very expensive Hermes bag? Then that's kind of what you have to ask yourself. So hopefully I've kind of answered that one. The next one is, what do I make of the shooting star offered on the make your own SLG? So this is actually a it's like a la carte for SLGs. It's a new service that has actually now been introduced on, I know it's on Hermes France, and I think it might be on the other Hermes websites as well. I know it's definitely not in Australia. And I have actually managed to order a horseshoe stamped SLG. It does take a long time to arrive, so it's still not going to be here for quite a while. And there is a little shooting star symbol that you can actually choose when it comes to making your SLG. However, I did notice that the shooting star that you can actually choose as a part of the symbols for the SLG is actually different to the shooting star that is on the, which could be on the handbags made by an artisan for him or herself. So I spoke about this before in my video about pre-loved tips when you're buying an Hermes bag. So the shooting star on a handbag would signify that the Hermes artisan has made that bag for him or herself, for his or her own personal use. So the shooting star is that, but it's different. It is a different shooting star than what it is for choosing it on your SLG. So hopefully that's made sense. Yeah, they are different symbols. Same name, shooting star, but they are actually just different anyway. So they would look different. So it wouldn't matter anyway, because Hermes would know that when it comes to the SLGs, it has been a service that has now been offered that you can make your own. Next one is, what do I think of the new Kelly To Go pocket pouch? I don't like it. Yeah, I don't like it. It's cute, but I wouldn't buy it. I believe the price is like $5,000 Australian, and all it is like a loop like a wristlet with like a little pocket thing on the end that looks kind of like the little Kelly pocket SLG that you can get. Yeah, I don't like it. For that price point, nah. I'm not really wrapped in it. But you know what? I don't find any kind of uses really for clutches. I don't have a lifestyle where I go out for dinner dates or anything like that. I've got 2 kids. It's very difficult. And yeah, I'm just not really a clutch person. I don't go to like big events that need a clutch. So to me, I don't like it. I don't think it's worth the money, to be honest. I think that that money is better spent on an actual handbag rather than just a small clutch. Even the Juge clutch, I think is better because it's actually, I think that it's less. Yeah, it is less, but it really looks more like a clutch, like a very much more dressy sort of clutch, in my opinion. The Kelly pocket clutch just, yeah, I don't feel like it has the same kind of appeal that the Juge clutch has. Next question is, thoughts on the Birkin 35? The price on the pre-loved market is really good. I would probably only ever get 1 Birkin. So do you think I would regret buying a Birkin 35 instead of a Birkin 30? I would carry the same amount of stuff either way. I'm not petite, so bigger bags don't look huge on me. So my answer to this is, I would say, you know what? If you can actually carry a Birkin 35, like if you're not really petite like me, I'm only 156 centimeters, so I'm short. If you're not petite like me, I think that if you can go with a Birkin 35 and you're buying pre-loved, I would say 100% go with the Birkin 35, because the Birkin 35 is such a good deal in the pre-loved market. It is amazing. Compared to the Birkin 30, they pretty much sell for retail price or more, whereas the Birkin 35 you could get for well under the retail price of a Birkin 30. So the retail price of a Birkin 30, much less, you can get a Birkin 35. That to me seems like much better value. So you're getting a very good deal. But yeah, the downfall with that is Birkin 35, it is a bigger bag. If you're carrying the same amount, you're not really needing that extra space. It is a heavier bag as well. That's probably the biggest downfall, is that it's a heavier bag. However, what I would answer to that is, if you are going to get a Birkin 35, just try to stick with Swift leather or Gulliver leather, which is actually the predecessor for Swift. Gulliver leather was around first. So yeah, I would just stick with those leathers, so that way you're actually getting a very lightweight Birkin 35 in contrast to a Birkin 35 that's in Togo or Clemence. I would say avoid Clemence like the plague, because it is a very heavy leather, especially in a Birkin 35. Another option would be Dennis, which is a discontinued leather. That is also pretty lightweight as well and extremely robust, very carefree. Pretty much the weight of the Birkin 35 would be equivalent to the weight of a Birkin 30 in Togo anyway, so you will not feel like your arm's dropping off or anything like that. I carry a Birkin 30 in Togo and I find the weight doesn't bother me at all whatsoever. So that would be my advice. If you can carry the Birkin 35, I personally would rather get go and take advantage of that great deal in the pre-loved market. But I don't think that, personally, when it comes to that regret side of it, I don't think that you would regret it, because you could still use a Birkin 35 to go out to dinner if you can carry a Birkin 35. Like if you are the height, weight and everything to carry a Birkin 35, it's still a Birkin at the end of the day. It's a very highly respected handbag. It is a top tier handbag, well known. No one's gonna like frown upon you taking a Birkin 35 to a dinner date because it's a Birkin. Next question is, what do you think is a good going rate for a Birkin 35 in Togo in good condition? Doesn't have to be perfect. I would say the Japanese market is probably the best. However, the only downfall right now is that because of the pandemic, they're not doing EMS shipping, like express mail shipping to all over the world like they were sort of before. Like even for Australia, we can't get EMS from Japan. But with that aside, let's just forget about that fact. I would say in the Japanese market, because that's typically where I always used to religiously look at like pre-loved and vintage bags. Birkin 35 Togo, you could probably get for around about anywhere between $9,000 Australian in good condition up to $13,000 Australian. I have seen bags that are in poorer condition, more fair condition, and definitely need to be sparred for like $7,000 Australian. But if you're wanting a bag that you can pretty much use from the get-go and it doesn't look too beat up or anything, it's completely usable, you probably wouldn't need to be any rush to put it in Hermes Spa, then I'd say around about that like $9,000, $10,000 price point. Interested in the Birkin 35, what it holds, but scared of the weight. Short answer is, like I already said, just stick with Gulliver leather, which was around first, so you will find that in vintage Birkin 35s. I think you're probably looking at least stamps of about 10 years old, at least, maybe 15 years old. Or Swift leather, which is still currently around today. If you just stick with those leathers, it'll be a very lightweight bag in contrast to the popular leather Togo or Clemence, and it'll be equivalent in weight to that of a Birkin 30 in Togo. The other option is Novillo leather, but that's very new, so it would be hard to find a Novillo Birkin 35 pre-loved for a good deal because it's a new leather. It's only been around for about a year and a half, 2 years at the very most. The next question is, I've been waiting for a bag and was offered one this past week, and it wasn't one of my wish list colors. I bought it anyways. It was a Kelly 28 in blue pale, Retouched gold hardware. Did I make a huge mistake? I know that you have this color as well. I'm scared to use it because of color transfer. Do you find that you don't wear it as much? I'm scared to tell my sales associate in fear that I will never be offered another bag. Do you think I should hold on to it anyway and wait for a price increase to sell it? Would you hold on to it? It's a pretty long-winded question. I just had my heart set on a Birkin 30 in a color I would wear every day and not worry about ruining it. So yeah, this is a very long-winded question. I have actually replied to this person privately, but we're not going to know who this person is even if I'm publishing this anyway, so it won't be a big deal. But to anyone who has ever been in this situation, that's why I'm going to answer it anyway. So she's been offered something that wasn't on a wish list. It happens. I personally think that the color of the bag is absolutely beautiful. Blue pale, Kelly 28 Retouched, gold hardware is amazing. It's actually a very rare bag. Like, it's blue pale has obviously come back because, as you know, I have a blue pale Pinkerton in gold hardware. The problem is that's not the bag that she wanted. It's not in a color that she feels it's carefree. So we do have a bit of a problem here. She's asking me, do I wear my bag much because of the color? Like, am I scared of the color transfer? Personally, no, I'm not scared of the color transfer. I know how to care for my bags. I know how to clean them, so I'm not worried about it. I've had color transfer before on my Trench Kelly 28 a long time ago. I don't have that bag anymore, and I was able to clean it off. So I don't personally worry about color transfer. The reason I haven't actually been using this bag much is because it's top handle, and I don't like when I attach a strap to it, it still remains open. So I haven't been able to get over that fear, which is actually nothing to do with the color. So if I had a Kelly 28 in Retouched blue pale with gold hardware, I would be using that bag. Yeah, it would be like a fantastic bag for my collection, pretty much perfect. I would personally be using that bag. I think it's amazing. When it comes to selling it, I wouldn't say to wait for a price increase to sell it. I would actually be more worried about the fact that if you stay wanting to shop with the sales associate and you sell it, she's going to notice that you don't have it anymore. That to me is more of a bigger problem. And that to me could actually affect your relationship. And especially if it's actually the first bag you've ever been offered, they're going to expect to be seeing that bag at some point. Okay, so I just had to take my son to chill out with his dad because yeah, it was just starting to make too much noise. Okay, so where was I? I was talking about that person and accepting that bag. So my answer to this is, obviously you know that I've already said that I would love the bag, but I think that if anyone is ever in this actual situation, I think it's just better to reject the bag and don't take it, because if you feel from the get-go when you're accepting the handbag that you are going to sell it, it is just not a good situation to be in. And if you want an ongoing relationship with your sales associate, it is not good to sell a handbag that you've just been offered and then to rock up at the store and never have it again. It is not a good thing. So the other thing is that if you reject the handbag, if you have that relationship with your sales associate where you shop regularly, they know who you are, you're in regular contact, you have a good relationship, you will get offered another bag again anyway. Just explain to them when you're saying it's not for you, just say, oh look, I just prefer like a Birkin 30 in a taupe or gold or black, something a bit more carefree, just as my first bag. That's what I would rather. Look, I think this is absolutely beautiful. If you tell them that, they're going to understand, you know. They want to sell you something that you really love and you want to use and keep. Okay, we have my son with me. Look, I'm just going to wrap up that question. The only way where I feel as though it'll be a different thing if you reject the bag and it'll be problematic is if you're actually getting that offer from France, FSH, and you were going in as a tourist and not as like a regular client. Then that's a situation where you probably should just take the bag, because you may never get one that easily again. But in general, from your local boutique, the store that you shop with regularly, if it's not something that makes your heart sing, it's not something that you had your heart set on, or you couldn't even compromise for it and make it work, then you're just better off just rejecting it and just explaining and then just waiting for the right bag. Okay, next question is, would my sales associate be able to find out I resold a bag if the buyer checks the store name on the receipt and calls up to verify it? Firstly, I would say if you're ever actually selling a bag, you definitely want to make sure your details are blanked out, your name, your address. Now, in regards to actually checking the store name on the receipt and calling up, I can pretty much tell you now that if someone called up the Hermes boutique and said, oh, I just want to check if you sold this bag, it says it was sold in your store, the person that answers the phone is not going to entertain the conversation. They don't have time for it. They are not even allowed to authenticate bags that you bring in. The sales associates aren't trained to be authenticating. They're also not, it's not a part of their job requirement to check other people's purchases that they bought from someone else. If you were to perhaps go into the store and you have a normal sales associate that you're dealing with, you might get a different answer. They might be willing to check the system for you, maybe. But if you're just calling up on the phone, they're not going to entertain the conversation. They're not going to entertain it. It's not what they need to do. It's not their job to check back on the purchase history of someone else. Also, if you've bought it from someone else, they're not going to be able to really be able to sort of say who it was offered to anyway. Yeah, because hopefully the person whoever has sold it had blanked out their name and address anyway. So the person who calls up is only going to be able to say, oh, this Kelly 28 in gold with gold hardware, did you sell this in September 2017? I'm just saying, you know, a random date or something like that. Like, yeah, they're not going to be able to do anything about it. They're not going to be able to check the system. The bags aren't microchipped or anything like that. They don't have like a serial number on them. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. The other thing I can say with answering that question is that there is actually a problem with reselling anything that you buy from Hermes. And I'm going to do this in another video when I have the chance. But there has been some situations lately where Hermes has actually issued warnings to people reselling an item. But just wanted to put that in as a bit of a side note. If you are selling something, just be very wary. If Hermes does find out you're selling something for a profit and they know it was your bag, like, yeah, just be very wary. I've only got a few more questions left because my son's getting a little bit restless, so hopefully I can get through these quickly. The next question is, would I buy from a Claire Atelier and am I concerned with authenticity? A Claire Atelier is a reseller on Instagram. He's actually been brought to light more so by Mel in Melbourne. I have no concerns with authenticity with him. Yeah, authenticity, no problem whatsoever. I wouldn't be worried. However, would I buy from him? Look, I don't know. It really would depend on the bag. I find his pricing is a little bit higher than what I kind of look at in other Singaporean resellers. So I do have a video on my channel like where I buy my Hermes bags, and I go through a list of like all the places that I do shop from aside from the store. I don't know, I could potentially buy from him in the future. If it was the right bag, right price, then yeah, I could. But he's not exactly the kind of store that I look at a lot because I find that, yeah, the pricing is a bit different to the other resellers that I do tend to look at their listings. Alright, I think I'm just going to wrap up this video here because this guy's getting a bit restless. I only had a few more questions left, but I'll just carry them on to another video when I do these questions and answers. So yeah, if you liked this video and if you enjoy it, give it a thumbs up. If you have some more Hermes questions that you want to ask me that haven't already been answered in other videos, in the other Hermes question and answer videos, then please leave them in the comments down below and I will hopefully get to them in the next series that I do, or the next video that I do in this series, and put this guy to sleep because he's getting a bit overstimulated. But I will see you guys in my next one. Bye!